Hi, everybody. John Townsend here. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live program. We're here every week on this webinar call back and forth context where from 2 to 3 every Wednesday Pacific time, we just answer your questions. And there's questions about relationships and all kinds of relationships, in marriage and dating and kids and parents and friends and business relationships, because business is a big place where cultures develop. People have a lot of relationships at business, church relationships, but as well as, kind of the other areas of life, like how are you doing emotionally? Do you have behavioral issues that you struggle with, or depression or anxiety or stress or trauma, things going on that are affecting how you're feeling about life? And we deal with spiritual issues, and we deal with work issues like leadership and success sorts of things too. So we cover the gamut in the human world of things that people deal with. And so what we try to do that we think is kind of the most helpful that we think of is, first, we try to give you a real answer that's a why, or that answers the why, instead of try harder or just keep at it, sailor or sailoress or whatever that would be. Which, hard work is a good thing, but it doesn't really. Most of the time, most people that call here, they've already tried hard work or tried again. So we try to give a why. What's going on underneath that will keep things stuck in the way you're looking at things, or the way you're sort of responding to people, your situations? There's something underneath there. A lot of times it can be hurt, or it can be something from the past, or it can be loneliness or powerlessness or shame or feeling one down, or some other things like that can affect why things in work or love or anything aren't going right. There's something underneath, and we want to get at that. So the why is a big important part of what we do. And the other part is we really want to make the answer something doable and actionable and specific. So it's not some vague, well, remember that you are one with the universe kind of answer. Well, how do I do that? So want to make it so there's an action step that's doable and won't take you a whole long time, just to at least give you some traction is everything. The momentum and the traction, at least I'm moving. People start feeling better when at least they're taking some step, whether it solves, maybe there's 100 action steps ahead of us. Look at the path of life. Look what the Bible says about life. But when people go, this first step, I feel okay, I feel better. Like maybe there's some hope there. We try to provide that. And we like for you to call us and hear your great voice, and I'll talk to you back and forth. And all the venues we're on: Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. But also, you can't do that because somebody's walking around the room behind you at work, and you can't be on the phone talking to somebody, then we can do it by text. And to explain all that is our great producer, Stacy. Hey, Stacy.
Hey there, John. Welcome to the show, everybody. We're glad that you're with us today. And as you heard Dr. Townsend say, we love it when you call in. So let's go ahead and get that number out to you. If you want to grab a piece of paper and a pen, that number is 1-877-853-5257. Again, 877-853-5257. And when you dial the number, you're going to enter a meeting ID code. And that ID code is 876-5437-2012. Again, 876-5437-2012. Go ahead, and when you enter the waiting room, disable your camera on your device just for privacy purposes. We only want to use it as a call-in show, so you don't have to have your camera on. You'll be talking with John, and don't be shy. We want to help people in this hour that we're here. So go ahead and let's get those calls coming in.
Thank you, Stacy. And we just love the communication we have with you guys. Plus the whole, how do I say it? The community is so great. They're so supportive with each other. I sent you, or Stacy sent you, a video this a few hours ago. We do it on Wednesdays. And the thought of it was, the essential thrust was that watch out for the phrase, time heals all things. Time heals all wounds. And before I started thinking about these matters, I said it too. And so did our parents. And so do we say to each other. And it's a great saying. It's a positive saying. Not a great saying. It's a positive saying, but not a really true thing. And the way to look at it is, think about Suppose you got a bacterial infection and you just hate doctors and you don't want to take pills and you don't want a side effect, so you don't do anything about it. And you could say, well, time heals all things. And what happens is the bacterial infection gets worse. Or you got a Charlie horse and you don't work it out or go to PT or stretch or everything, that doesn't get better. Same thing is true in relationships. Same thing is true with work, as is sometimes people think, especially in significant relationships, well, that bad behavior, maybe they had a bad day, even though they've done it 100 times and nothing I do changes that, but time heals all things. Well, there's lots of facts that I just gave examples of that time is not it, but it's important. So here's, I think, a better way to look at it. Time is a necessary but insufficient condition. For things to get better in your life, in your health, in your relationships, and how you feel about yourself and your energy, all those things, it is a necessary but insufficient condition. You got to have it. There's very few things that happen instantaneously. But what else is involved? Well, the way that I've always looked at it, when you look at the science and you also look at the Bible, is it's three things. It's time plus grace, which is relationships, supportive relationships, accepting relationships, and truth, information, data, feedback, research, studies. Time plus grace plus truth. They'll heal just about everything. If you've read any of my books or Henry Cloud's books, we kind of say the same thing in a lot of different ways because we've just seen that true in so many areas of life, that we have to start off with grace. We can't solve all these life problems we talk about in the program all by ourselves. We've got to have people around us that are for us and care about us and would never judge us and will go the long way with us without condemnation, same as God does. But then we also need information. We need wisdom, like, well, why did I do that? And we get this insight and facts and data. We all need data to pull life off. We all need the information. And time is sort of the, I forget what you call that, your NutriBullet. That's what my thing is that makes little morning shakes. Your NutriBullet blender thing. Time is the blender that all the grace you need and all the forms of grace you need and all the truth you need, they get mixed up together over time and blended together. And then out of that comes growth, change, winning, and all those sorts of things. So why do people say the time heals all things? I think basically that's an orientation toward passivity, where because people are either afraid to take a step or they're discouraged or just lazy or overwhelmed, they sort of kind of like they'll pacify themselves in a way by saying, in a hopeful way, not trying to do anything wrong, by saying time heals all things. And that passive approach just doesn't work. And better to say time heals a lot as long as I've got grace and truth and I'm active. Take the active approach toward life, not the passive approach, and your life will get much, much, much better. So I hope that helps. And Stacey, it looks like somebody's ready to talk with us.
That is right. Caller, you are live on the Dr. Townsend Live Show. Go ahead and tell us your first name only and where you're calling us from today.
Hi, my name is Maria. I'll go by Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, I am a follower of your work, so I'm grateful to get on the show and ask this question.
Absolutely. Where are you in the world?
I am in New Mexico. I have gone through many of the books and the books workbooks, and I just finished with my small group, the Beyond Boundaries book.
Okay.
So really glad to be on to ask this question because it's something I have worked on quite a bit with my therapist and with people who I can confide in about these things. Should I shoot? Just go for it?
Go for it.
I am 45 years old, Hispanic, raised modest and around some prejudice, not a whole lot, mostly a homogenous environment for me, for Hispanic. Became a Christian, and when raised Catholic, but then became Christian later on in adulthood. And this is something that is really sensitive to me. So I'm sorry if I get it's still really raw, and I need so much help. I have processed it in so many different ways. So the churches that I belong to now, they're predominantly Caucasian, wealthy, affluent Caucasian groups, and I struggle a lot with that to fit in and to really become like integrated, into community.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have a lot of barriers regarding, those underlying messages that I received as a child about trust. And so I just want to know, like, the question I have for today is, what are some questions I can ask myself to sort of pull the veil back a little bit on the denial, maybe, of the, because I find myself, there's the possibility that I'm sabotaging community, that I myself don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to enter into community. It's that part of the Beyond Boundaries book where, I want to know where my blind spots are and how much of this really is genuinely like an environment is never going to embrace me. And I'm, and maybe then that's denial and I'm sort of forcing myself onto them, or maybe they're able to, bring me into the community as much as they possibly can. And maybe it's my codependency. You get,
right.
Okay, good.
No, you
that's enough.
Well, we're going to summarize it more because there's so many questions there. We never get to them. I'm going to have it help you to summarize it into one simple question. What I hear so far is that you're having a hard time feeling connected to these more affluent Caucasian folks in the churches, and you want to solve that. Is that a short way to say it?
I want to experience vulnerability in a community. I'm not.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yes.
And because you can't, I mean, if you've been reading the books, that there's no such thing as real community without vulnerability. The person doesn't show up if they're not vulnerable, and then nothing good happens. All right. So give me a specific instance and a memory in the last month of going to some church or small group or whatever, where you were with these people, these affluent Caucasians, and it was a place where you had the opportunity to be vulnerable about, I don't know, life or hurts or fears or whatever, and you didn't take it. And I want to understand one specific that will help me to help you.
I'd like to open up more about how I was raised modestly, like basically, in poverty.
I need one situation where you can say, 3 weeks ago, I was with some people and I wanted to share about my more poverty, not raw poverty, but my non-affluent background. And here's what happened. So let's get out of the concepts and into the room with you. You follow me?
I do. I don't even take the shot anymore. I've been stereotyped there before. So I don't even take, yes.
I'm sorry. That feels really painful.
So I don't really shoot, I don't try.
Well, let's go back to that though. That's what I'm after, is that last time before you gave up trusting. What happened? How'd you get hurt? What was the event?
It was a women's conference.
Okay.
And myself and the one other Hispanic person were asked to give a class on how to make tamales.
Okay. That felt demeaning to you?
I don't know how to make tamales. I wasn't raised making them.
Okay. How'd that feel?
No, it's not part of my culture. It felt racist, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And so after that, the pain was so great of feeling biased against, you just went, I don't know if I can trust these kind of people.
Yeah, it gave weight for me to confirm the messages that were fed to me as a child.
Sure. Which was the same
That-
thing. You're not good enough
That they
in some
can't
way.
be trusted. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So there were childhood experiences where Caucasians were not kind or with you, and they did not treat you as an equal in some way.
True. That's true. But it's also the experience of my parents that was then passed on to us.
Your parents were prejudiced,
Against. Correct.
and then they told you about that. That set you up. Plus, then did you also have childhood experiences that were like what your parents experienced too?
I have had my own experiences. Yes.
Okay, so you from lots of sources, you're well acquainted with the pain of prejudice then, and of being prejudiced against.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. It just feels so wounding. How long ago was the conference, the women's conference?
Oh, that's been over before COVID. So 3 years, I'll say.
All right. So you had hope 3 years ago. When that happened, it was the straw that broke Maria's back, and you haven't trusted these folks since.
That's fair.
Okay. Instead of, let's start with some questions you can ask about self-sabotage and stuff. I get that, but I think what might be more helpful at this level, because we're talking about a lot of bad treatment, and then what psychologists call generalizations from those bad treatment. Like maybe all affluent white people are like that. And so it's a child part of us that does this. I want to protect myself. So if these people did this and they did this to my parents, they're all that way. And so that's when the trust gets all messed up. So instead of doing the, how does Maria ask a question? What tends to help is actually a relationship conversation. Do you know in your sphere of life an affluent Caucasian person that you kind of observed seems to be warm and kind?
I do. I have my small group, and that's the reason I stay at that church. And they're a group of about 10 couples, and they love me. They love me unconditionally. But the general population is a different story.
So this small group of these 10 couples are affluent Caucasians, and they're kind and they respect you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then help me understand why, when you have these nurturant people in that group that wasn't, in the big group wasn't kind to you, why would you think, well, these people are great, but everybody else isn't? I mean, what does your brain do
because
there?
the individuals who did that pose that question and put me in that situation. They are in the general population, and they are also very powerful. They're high up in leadership.
Okay. And did you go to any of those 3 years ago and say, that was really inappropriate, hurt me?
No, I didn't practice an I statement in that situation.
Why are you giggling? You had that kind of Maria giggle there.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, fear, I guess.
Okay. Fear of?
Retaliation,
Okay.
rejection.
Right. Okay. What if you went to them and said, it's been a few years and it's been hard for me to think about this, but I have something I'm going to go over with you. And you told your team of 10 couples, I'm going to do a very scary thing with some powerful people, but I've got to I've got to start to get some empowerment over some things, and I've been scared to do it. And I want to know that I can pray with you. You're going to text me and tell me I'm doing the right thing. And if these people yell and scream and reject me, that you're there for me to be my trampoline. Is that something you could do?
Yeah, I think I could.
Well, I would suggest that. And the reason I say that is, number one, you could go there and you talk to Jenny, and Jenny says, I said what? And you say, well, you know, one or two Hispanics. You asked me if we make tamales. And I don't know if you realize this, because there's this, you know, we know so much about unconscious bias.
Right.
And we got to give her the benefit of the doubt, unless she says, I know darn well it's because I think you're Mexican and you're below us. Well, then she's a bad person. But if she goes, you know, I'm learning about this, it was unconscious, so sorry. What can I do to make it better? I apologize. Maria's going to feel better and more empowered and more connected and more safe. So that's one option. We don't know because you were so scared to even bring this up. Second thing happens is Maria goes, well, you should be, or I never said it, or who are you, or whatever. And she's mean and she ought to be, you know, put in jail. I'm not being serious, but you know, she ought to be out of your life. Then you go back to your group of 10 couples and say, it was awful and she hurt my feelings again. And I just need to know there's 10 couples that are well-to-do Caucasians that don't see me that way and help me to pour my heart out. And that will strengthen you. Either way, Maria faces it, tries to get reconciliation. And even though it hurts, it won't lead you back to the generalization. So my big point before I got to go is this. You could never do this talking to yourself, and you could never do this with 5 questions. You can only do it in the context of relationship, and it will change the generalizations. I think the generalizations happen because you were so afraid that you and heard stories from your parents, and they had no answers or whatever, and you know, they got bad treatment. So you didn't grow up with skills about when somebody's mean to you, you get in their face, or you call the police, or you have a conversation. You didn't have those skills, so you were a bit checked out, a bit passive. And passivity creates generalization. If you go talk to these people, you'll be taking action. It'll be scary, but you've got support and love. And the action and initiative you take in facing that awful event 3 years ago, you will be better off.
Thank you.
So if you present that to your 10 couples, what do you think they'll say is, I need your help in this? What would they do?
Oh, they'd be very supportive.
The way you describe them, I think they'd be very supportive.
Yeah.
So I know that's scary, and I know it's a bit overwhelming, but I think that would be a good first step, Maria.
Well, it'll end the mystery. Thank you so much, Dr. Townsend.
And the mystery. Okay, Maria, take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You know, that's another point that Maria brought up. I didn't even think about it. That was really cool that you said that. Is not only is it you're facing something that you were scared or passive about, but when we don't face something and take the initiative, unless somebody's got an Uzi in your face, but otherwise, you were still in limbo. That's the mystery she talked about, which I totally love. Because when we're in mystery, what the science says about our neuroscience, our brain functions, when we're unknown, we don't know what's going on, it creates a thing called catastrophizing. I was going to say catastrophization, but that's not a word. Catastrophizing. When you don't know about how you're doing with somebody, or how they feel about you, or where the business is going, or whatever, or where your numbers are, and you can't get the data, you don't assume, well, it'll be all right. Our brains go to catastrophe. It's all going to hell in a handbasket. And so I love that she picked up, well, yeah, at least I'll know if these people are nice or wingnuts. So way to go, Maria. That's a good lesson for us all.
Absolutely. Okay, John, your next question is coming from a fella named Patrick, and he's in Tennessee. He says, I'm watching right now, but I am in my office and I cannot call in because, like you said, there are people walking around.
Patrick, you can see me, but I can't see you. So I'm going, hi, Patrick. Hi.
He says that he saw one of your Instagram posts the other day about when two people are free to disagree, they are free to love. And when they are not free, they live in fear and love dies. He says, Dr. Townsend, I've been married for 15 years. I am very much in love with my wife, and I do believe that she loves me in her own way, but we consistently battle. And I'm not talking about fighting, slamming doors. It is just that she constantly contradicts what I say, or if I just say a generality, she comes back on me with something different or better. It's never that I can just say something and be accepted at face value. After 15 years, this is wearing on me. I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I've had numerous conversations with her about how it makes me feel devalued in the marriage. What can I do, or how can I explain to her what this is doing to me? Because in her mind, we are fine.
Sorry to hear that, especially since you've been together a long time and you love her and she loves you in her way. And that's a lot of heart and time and soul investment. I was getting ready to say, gosh, can we get another text from you? But I think I know where we're going, because I was going to say, well, what happens when you bring it up? And you've already told us now. Her answer is we don't have a problem. This is not something that we ought to start with. Well, why is that? Did she have, a narcissistic mother who had to compete with her? Or did she have a dad that put up with everything she said? Who knows? That's for another time. You want to start, Patrick. I'm going to give you your best shot. Everything, you can't predict this kind of thing, but the best shot. You want to start with your own vulnerability. And I would start with something like, we talked about this a lot, where I kind of can't get a sentence out. I could say the sky is blue and you'd say, no, it's blue plus green. And I know, Penny, that you say this is not a problem and I should be this way. And you're entitled to your feelings. But I don't want to get into a fight about right and wrong on this. I want to tell you that even though you don't believe there's a problem there, and by the way, Penny, I'm a mess too in lots of ways. I can be passive, or I can be avoidant, or I can be controlling, or I can be self-centered. So please don't think that I'm putting myself over you. And in our marriage, I hope that anything I do bugs you or irritates you or alienates you, that you'll feel free to tell me, because I don't want to be that guy. But what I want to drive home with you, sweetheart, is I feel alone. God brought us together, and it's been wonderful. And you are the person in my life that that's most special to me. And when you do that, I don't think it's on purpose at all. And I'll give you some specifics, but it makes me feel all alone. Like, oh, the Patrick and Penny team, where they're listening to each other and empathizing and supporting and agreeing, but they're also disagreeing at times. The truth and grace flow is great. Instead of that, it's like, whatever I say, I'm contradicted. And I feel all by myself, like I don't have a voice, because whatever I say will be shown there of its ways. And I hope you don't do that right now. I hope you don't do it right now and say, there you go again, because that's another thing. Patrick, the reason I said that, and I'm not saying will always work, depends on how the level of her resistance would be. But it's always the first best shot. And there's a lot of wives or husbands who would say, I do that? Yeah. And I'm upset, but I want to work it out and I want to be close again. But if you can just change a few things here, it would help. There are some that'll say, I've never done anything wrong to you. You're crazy. And that means how if you watch the show, we talk about there's normal, mild, moderate, and severe. A normal person wouldn't do that. A mild person wouldn't do that. A heavy, moderate, severe person would say, I'm never wrong at all. And then you've got a real problem. And that's when you say, this is a big deal. And either we can solve it by you saying, yeah, sometimes I just don't let you have your peace and I don't attune to you. And I want to work on that. And you say, if you can't do that, don't want to do that, it hurts me so bad, I need to see a marital therapist. And if you've been watching the show, then if she says, yeah, we'll go, then have the referee who's got the 10,000 hours work with you. And if she says, I'm not going to do that, then you say, I'm going to go. I want you to go, but I'll go to a marital therapist and work on my marriage by myself until you're ready to come. So we'll be strategizing and talking about you. I'd love for you to be in the room, but you don't want to be. And that in itself, if she's a moderate to severe, will help her go, I need to be in that conversation if she shows up. So best of luck with that, but start off with vulnerability, Patrick. Just a side note for everybody that's had that experience. It's hard because vulnerability means you take a risk, and taking a risk means I could be hurt. But if you can't ever be hurt again, then you'll never get what you asked for. God gets hurt. In the Old Testament, it says, he's talking about Israel. He says, what am I going to do with you, Adma? Adma was the function of it, was a part of Israel. What am I doing with you, Adma? He says, my heart is turned over within me about you. He was vulnerable. And there's the being that created it all, being vulnerable and knowing that he'd be hurt, but it was worth it to him. So don't put everything out there with an unsafe person. Put something out and see what they do with it. Some will go, didn't know I was really impacting that way. By the way, we'll let you know that we're with the Townsend Institute for Leadership and Counseling, partnered with Concordia University, Irvine. If this is a time for you that you want to get the ceiling out of your head of the job you're in now or the place you're in, you want advancement or a new career or whatever, this is about opportunity. This is about taking the ceiling off and making a much higher ceiling, because we're providing degrees in counseling, in organizational leadership, and in coaching. Counseling, organizational leadership, and coaching. Some are in the bachelor's level all the way up to master's. Some go to PhD, and all online, all accredited. We've got all the bells and whistles and accreditations, and our students, or hundreds of students, are getting great jobs now because they spent a year, 2 years, 3 years part-time. They had a full life and raising kids and all that, and a full workload of their jobs. But we have got it down to a science of having a relational way to give you the skills and tools you need for that breakthrough opportunity. So I want you to check it out. Check us out. We have these information sessions where I show up and our great professors show up, and we answer questions of people who are potential students online all over the world in this big gathering. And Stacey will put up when the next one is. When is it, Stacey? It's like next month?
That's right. It's going to be Monday, March the 13th at 5:30 Pacific.
Show up then. We'll have you for an hour. We'll give you a ton of data. I talk a lot about what we do, but it's about, if you're kind of like in that, I'm tired of settling, whether I'm 23 or 73, I'm tired of, this is okay, but I want the new thing. I want a better thing that fits my passion. I want new skills, tools. I often tell people when they say, well, what's this about? I always say it starts with passion. God put something in you when you were a little girl or a little boy that you already knew you were good at and it felt good to you. Like maybe you were the one in school that your friends came up to you and said, my parents are mean, or that person doesn't like me. I don't feel like I fit in. And you were the person that kind of helped put together broken people at a small age. They were drawn to you. Well, that's the counseling part. That's the counseling passion. Or you're an encourager developer where you help people get from A to B. You say, I think you could try out for student government. I think you ought to try out for this athletic thing. I think you're really good at piano. And instead of brokenness, that's more about developing people to the highest capacity. Guess what that is? That's not counseling, that's coaching. Or you're the person that I was always called on to, be captain of the team, or the captain of the drama club, or captain of the spiritual growth thing at church. Captain, I don't know if that's a captain, director. And you found out that people like being around you because you could lead well. That's organizational leadership. So we want to give you something that fits your passion. We always say that we are the plant, the soil, that you take your little passion plant and you plant it with us, and we'll develop it into a career. So check us out.
Okay, John, your next question comes from Jennifer, but before I read her question, I want to give the phone number again for everyone that may be having technical issues. I think the weather across many regions has some tech gremlins keeping people from being able to call in. So if you don't have the number, that is 1-877-853-5257. Again, 1-877-853-5257. When you dial that number, you're going to enter meeting ID code 876-5437-2012. Again, 876-5437-2012 is the meeting ID code to enter and ask John your question today. So your next question is coming from Jennifer, and she is actually from California. She says, Jennifer is not my real name. I went to TI. I have my coaching.
TI is the institute we're talking about. Hi, Jennifer.
Yes, Townsend Institute. Yes. And she said, I came in through the coaching program. I had a great career already, but I knew due to some things that went on in my childhood and in my current marriage that I needed to do some growing myself and venture out into some new waters for myself. She said, so my question is that after I went through, it was just a lovely experience and I've grown so much from that. And it's been about 3 years ago for me. She said, I am now reached a place where I feel like I am using possibly too much talk therapy on myself and the people that I love in my life instead of acknowledging and processing emotions. My husband, quite frankly, will say to me, stop psychobabbling me. I want to be sure that I have that part clear. Is there a difference between using too much reasoning and talk therapy versus acknowledging and processing emotions?
Absolutely. And if you solve that, you solve so many relational problems. A lot of us who have a pretty well-developed left brain, which is the logical part, the cognitive part, and need to still work on the right brain, which is the emotional relational part. People that are sort of like lean that way often, they get a lot out of reason. And my goodness gracious, there's so many whys we need to get to. Why did this happen? And what are the solutions? But the way the brain works and the way relationships works is that you have to earn the right to tell people the truth. You have to earn the right by attuning to them. And attunement is a technical word. It's sort of like empathy. It's in the empathy family, where you can tune into a person's ebb and flow of feelings in a conversation. Like, oh, you're excited about this. And then, oh, you sound really kind of pissed off about this. Or, oh, this is really happy. Oh, you sound really sad. When you attune to a person and people kind of go, I'll hear what you got to say. I'll hear your point of view right now. When I wrote my book, People Fuel, which is in here, which is in here, it's in my house. When I wrote the book, People Fuel, I'll talk about getting in the well. And the well means when people are struggling about, who knows, they burnt the supper, or the laundry didn't work, or there's not enough money, or you got a kid who's acting out, or whatever the problems are. If you're left brainish, you go straight to the solution. Well, try this. And people kind of go away. Most people kind of go away saying, I kind of just wanted to complain a bit. No, and the reason for that is that God made us our number one need. By the way, it's not Maslow's hierarchy. That's been discredited. We used to think it's air and water and all those things. And then it's like relationships and community fulfillment. It's relationship, even over survival. They found out through a lot of monkey studies, the Harlow studies, that we will pick relationship over sometimes eating and drinking because our wiring is so fundamentally attachment based. Well, so if you get somebody and you say, try this, they kind of go, I don't feel connected, because they don't want to be alone with that problem, Jennifer. If the money problem, the child problem, the marriage problem, even before they find your great solution, I'm sure you went through the Institute, we gave lots of tools. I'm sure you got the tools. But even before we get to that, they want to know, I'm not alone. I'm not all by myself in this awful, scary, overwhelming problem. I want a nice Jennifer just to say, tell me more about it. How did it feel? That sounds awful. Sounds overwhelming. Sounds scary. It sounds hurtful. I felt that way myself sometimes. That's attuning. And then people take it in. It's called internalization. And people go, I'm not all by myself. she's in the well with me. We haven't fixed my problem, but she's in the well with me. And it was intolerable being in that well. And so the attuning allows you to come inside them and they go, oh, it's me and Jennifer in my pain. And she's there. And then sometimes you can tell, and sometimes you have to say, am I getting it? I think it's a very powerful question. Am I getting it? And they go, no, you don't really get it. You saying I'm happy and I'm not happy. Or you say I'm scared, I'm really mad. Let me try again. We call it the dartboard. You're throwing darts at, like, trying to get to their head. And they finally go, yeah, you get it. Thank you. And then you say, okay, I'm glad I got it, because I don't want you to be alone with this. I want you to make sure that I'm attuned to this. Then you say the following. I've got some thoughts about the solution, but if all we need is just to know you're not alone, I'm fine doing that. But you mentioned that. They might go, I just feel better now. Jennifer, you were sort of my endorphin, my Prozac, and I just feel like I can tackle this problem because I'm not alone with it. Thank you. Or they might go, well, yeah, I feel like you get it. So I want to hear what you have to say. You're not preaching at me or not being a parent to me. You were with me. You earned it. That's why I said we earn the right to tell the truth and give advice and solutions and strategies by being in the well. Grace earns the right to truth. And they go, yeah, tell me about it. That's where I go. And it is, sometimes people will say, it's like magic. I had somebody tell me that today. Professional I work with, he's in the AV industry. We're talking about his career. He's working with, Fortune 5 companies in the AV world. He's so good. And I said, congratulations. And he said, well, our relationship taught me how to attune to these people, and they have got me booked up. That's how powerful it is. Hope that helps, Jennifer.
Great answer, John. Okay. Your next question is coming from David from Georgia. And he says he is over on Instagram and he's private messaging you for privacy reasons. He says, I was at the workshop with you and Henry and the growth skills team last week in California.
The ultimate leadership. There are 1 week intensive. Yeah, great, David.
Yep, that's right. Ultimate leadership last week. So he says he thoroughly enjoyed the teachings and everything, the healing and everything he came away with from the week. But now that
that was a great week. There's a lot of great people, and they had a lot of breakthroughs, and all these leaders getting together, asking questions. And
that's right.
I was doing role plays left and right. It was a great week.
It was a fun week for sure. He says, now that I'm back home, I've realized that something you stood out, or something you said there stood out to me last week about needing people of good character in our lives, and that we first become a person of healthy character. And then that's how we're able to pick better people in our lives. He said, I've returned home to realize that not only my outside of work life, but my inside of work life, everyone that I'm surrounded with is unhealthy in some way. And I'm trying to decipher, is this normal, or do I just need to wipe the slate clean and break ties with, over 25 people, he says, and start over again?
Yeah, that's a pretty common experience, unfortunately, David, when people leave and fly back home from the event, because they get a feel for what grace and truth are, and how to know that you are totally accepted, and yet you'll hear the truth from people and give it, and it's a safe place. And they go home and they found out whatever reason, they kind of accumulated people that aren't nurturing that. And they go, okay, go move on an island or kick everybody out of the club or whatever. And you might remember, well, let me, I don't get to that yet. Here's the deal. There's unhealthy, David, like broken unhealthy, and there's toxic. So if I were you, I'd get a piece of paper and just kind of think about, there's Sue and Jim and Bill and these 25 people, and think through, they're all broken. I mean, David, you got your own brokenness, whatever it is, and look at their brokenness. Maybe some are more isolative, or they're in their heads too much, or they tend to be a black and white thinker, or they kind of push too hard, or whatever, kind of self-centered. Well, that's just broken. And all 8 billion of us, is it 9 now on the planet, or that? But then there's toxic. And these are people that are hurting other people with it. They control people, they gaslight people, they judge other people. They do things that the Bible and science say are bad things. That's two different columns. And you're likely, I mean, unless you've got the worst people picker I have ever seen, man, you're likely to go, oh, okay, all 25 are kind of screwed up like I am. But to say, I kind of doubt that you'll go, all 25 love to hurt people and have no interest in changing and growing. Low percentage. It happens every now and then. So that's one thing I would do. The second thing I would do is with that broken column that is not toxic, I would take the least broken people, rate them, their brokenness is a 1 or their brokenness is a 900. Go to the ones. Nobody's a 1, maybe 10. And say, I'm learning a lot of stuff in my self-improvement. I'm at this workshop and I'm learning how to be open and I want to grow emotionally, physically, spiritually, and all that. And I'd love to talk about this. And you remember that presentation I gave about that different people feel about how to have these series of lunches. We'll do it with these broken people that aren't uber broken and not toxic, and invite them, because I know so many broken people, David, who go, I know I'm a mess. I'm a hot mess. I can be controlling and not listen. I can shut down and I can push away love and I can, be perfectionistic, but I hate it. I can be all those things, but I hate it. I hate what it does to other people. I hate what it does to me, and I don't want it anymore. And but they don't have the skills and tools and experience that you had, David, because you went and did a lot of work at the week long. And you say, great, I got stuff too. Can we just grow together and be nice to each other and learn some things? The Bible calls that a hunger and a thirst for righteousness. Matthew 5, the Beatitudes. And it's a blessed state. So there can be some broken, hungry, and thirsty people that you invite and say, can we change our relationship? What am I doing that bugs you? Okay, thank you. I'll work on that. Here's what you do that bugs me. And all of a sudden, over a few weeks, you find out there's this freedom and safety, and you grow together. So don't wipe the slate clean just yet, David.
Okay, John, I usually don't like to give you a really hard one at the very end, but this one's going to be kind of difficult or sad.
Okay.
Sandra is writing in privately over on your Facebook, and she's from Idaho. And she says, I've been married 5 years. My husband and I just had a baby 2 years ago together. I recently found out last week that he was cheating. I had suspicions for about 6 months that something was going on, but I wasn't sure. So I hired someone. I now have pictures and solid proof. I need to speak with him this week. I cannot let another week go by without addressing this, but I am scared to death to confront him with this information. Do I do it alone? Do I get some people with me that believe in me and support me? Or do I just go right at it with him privately? I'm trying to type, but I'm crying at the same time.
Sandra, I'm so sorry. You just have to be devastated beyond belief when, I mean, you guys, now you have a 2-year-old and you thought life centered around the three of you, and it's upside down. I'm so sorry. Let me give you some kind of a decision tree on this. This is a big question, and it's a good question. I'm concerned about the level of your anxiety, because if you're too anxious, then it won't go well and something will flub up and you might want to bring somebody in. But let's start with just the two of you. If you and your husband have a history of disagreements going well, some couples have a good language of disagreement. They love each other, respect each other, and affirm each other while they're telling the truth. If you found that that's the case and you've worked out other problems and you're not too anxious, then you get in a private thing away from your child. Oh, I see a note. No good communication, loves him but can't trust him. Okay, well, take that one out then. Communication not good. Yeah, I just got a note. Thank you for putting that in the queue for Stacy. Let me go to the next one. Sorry, I'm thinking. Let me make it simpler for you, given that there's not good trust and good communication. The decision tree would be that you got to talk in the next few weeks. I mean, next few days, I understand that. I would want you to get a friend, a very safe, close friend. I hope there's somebody you're talking to who's confidential, and put together the conversation points, like bullet points. And they're generally with these kind of situations, they don't go on forever. It's like, I know I have proof. I'm devastated, and we need to go to marriage counseling immediately. And if we don't, and if you refuse to go, then you have to leave the house until you're ready for that. It's always in that range. There's some variation with this. And you do those, and you practice them with your friend. You know how big a believer I am in the power of role play to get us ready for tough conversations. And if your anxiety is okay, 6 out of 10, then you do it. If your anxiety is still 9, 10, like you can't even talk without feeling you're going to lose it, or you're going to like cry, or he's going to be able to talk you out of, and you can't stick with the script, then you have to say, we've got a problem, and I need to see someone together with you. And I would bring you to not a friend, I'd bring you to a therapist. And if he says, why, I can't say it yet because I'm so upset. So anxiety moderate, role play goes well, got your bullet points set out, probably okay, unless he's like dangerous or would hurt you, then you certainly can't do it. Anxiety too high and off the roof, and you just can't function after the role play is still not enough to bring it down to a 6. And I need to see you with somebody. No, I can't say why, but I'll let you know. That's the best we can do. Actually, I think that I want to say a prayer for Sandra. God, I pray for a situation where a family is being torn apart by deception and infidelity. And I pray for strength for Sandra, hope, and for your spirit to guide a conversation in the way that brings this young man the best possible chance to save his marriage and his life. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, Sandra. Be thinking about you.
So hard.
That's hard.
So hard. Okay, John, your next question is coming from Tim, and Tim lives in Florida, and Tim says, I am hoping that I get to either come to the Institute or to one of the workshops that you do at some point in time, because I am very much interested in coaching and counseling. Until then, I have a question about my work environment. I am the CEO of my company and have recently had to let go of a little over 15 employees. The employees that are left are now bickering with each other. They are saying that the culture has changed since letting go, although we have not changed anything structurally within the company. Everything we do is still the same. What can I, as the head leader of this, of my people and my employees and teams, do to let them know that things will not change due to budget? Like, our culture is still the same. We're still going to keep moving forward. How can I continuously reiterate this and kind of quiet down the whispers and the talk that's going on in the office?
Yeah, they're demoralized and they're scared and they're snapping and all this stuff. Cultural, that kind of a level. I don't know how big your company is, but 15, if it's a small company, is a big, big, scary thing. So you're getting that. And Tim, assuring them is not the first thing. A lot of times as CEO, I work with tons of CEOs and they think the first thing is to assure them. That's not the first thing. The first thing is to hear them out, not in the gossip things around the water cooler. That's just kind of useless and it's actually divisive. Is you have a town hall with your players. I mean, if you got a small company, you can I wouldn't do it with over, maybe 10, 15 people in the room because it can get, really flamey. But either the players or just you have a small group anyway, and you have a poster board, whiteboard, and you say, you all know that we lost those 15 people, and we know, and I'm aware that you're really, really having some negative feelings, and I want to hear everything. And so you spend, I don't know, 10, 15 people, say 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and I just write them down. Are we in trouble? Okay, let me write. And you don't say, no, you're not. You write them down, all of them, until everybody's had their day in court. Unless you got some crazy person who just blabbles on, you have to say, can't get to all of that, Sam, but. And are you guys lying to me, saying it's okay until you can replace me? All right, that's your other question. All right, who else? Is the company ending? Okay, and then you say, you answer what you can answer, but after you write that down, then this is a lot of listening skill stuff for our CEOs, Tim. You say, I'm going to read these through. Do I understand? I'm going to paraphrase it on my way because I don't want to be a parrot. I want to be a paraphraser. And then they finally go, yeah, fundamentally, you get why we're so unhappy. Then you go, okay, I can answer these three right now. And then I'm going to work on these other ones because I want to give you, and we're going to meet in a couple of days. And then you do your homework. People are what you're saying is, no, there's been no issues, but they don't know that you've understood. It's sort of like the Jennifer thing. They don't know that you've understood that they're in the well and pain and scared and free and where's my mortgage going to be paid and all that, freaking out. You do that, they start calming down like he's on the same page with me. He's aligned, he's attentive to me. And then you tell them, if you could tell them the very same thing, which is the budget's the same, everything's the same. We just changed some things, but there is no thought about anybody else going. They're a lot more receptive to that. Now, there will be some people who will say the following. I just like to go to the negative stuff too, so you're not, ambushed by it. Can you guarantee that, Tim? You go, no, we're in business. Nobody can guarantee anything. I can tell you that from all the numbers I have and all the information I have, I don't see any signs of it. I think we solved our problem. And the rest of the more sober-minded people say, we're getting back to work. That's what I would do. Good luck.
Sorry about that, John. It looks like we are almost out of time. You got 2 minutes left, and everyone that's been trying to call in, we are so thankful that you've been trying to call in, and we're sorry that the phone lines have not been cooperating with us today, but thank you for typing in your questions. We appreciate that.
Yeah, there were a lot of good, people were really vulnerable and gave a lot of information. They're typing. So well done, y'all.
Yes. And you have more, obviously, but time doesn't allow, and we hope that everyone will join us again next week.
I think people understand that we'll never get to all the questions because of the number of people that are watching, but we try to get to the ones that we can help.
That's correct. Okay. The floor is yours.
All right. I want to remind you again about the 1 week intensive, which is coming up the next week or two. Very similar to the Ultimate Leadership Workshop. It's a 1 week workshop that Henry and I and others do in Southern California. And it's for people that are counselors, people helpers, psychiatrists, psychologists, LCSWs, LPCs, MFCCs, all those things, all the shrinky types. We have a whole training for you with that, with breakthrough experiences for your growth. And you now can get continuing ed credit for it. How many hours? 9 hours, Stacey?
It is 9 continuing education credits.
Of NPCC. So we just got that. And so sign up. It's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. Everybody have a good week.